Learning English through real stories helps you remember grammar, vocabulary, and expressions without even thinking about it. The more you imagine the story, the better your brain holds on to the language. So before we dive in, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This one's about a traveler, a canal, and one very lost suitcase in the middle of Venice. He had dreamed of Venice since he saw a photo of it in a travel magazine years ago. Narrow alleyways, stone bridges, pastel buildings with green shutters, and of course, the gondolas gliding through the canals like something out of a painting. He arrived on a cloudy afternoon, suitcase in hand, map stuffed in his back pocket, and a giant grin on his face. It didn't take long for the magic to kick in. The air smelled like old stone and salt water. The sound of footsteps echoed on the wet pavement, and gondoliers shouted to each other across the water in voices that seemed to belong to a different century. Like any good tourist, he wanted the gondola experience right away. He spotted a gondolier in a black and white striped shirt, standing next to a sleek black boat rocking gently by the dock. A small group was about to board. The gondolier waved him over and he climbed in, careful not to tip the boat. He placed his suitcase beside him and leaned back. The boat moved away from the dock and slid into a narrow canal. Everything slowed down. The sound of the water lapping against stone, the distant hum of a violin playing somewhere, and the rhythm of the gondolier's oar. It was better than any photo could capture. As the gondola turned a corner under a tiny bridge, he noticed a cat sitting on a windowsill. The cat blinked slowly at him as the boat floated by. Clotheslines stretched above, connecting windows across the canal. A breeze blew a pink curtain out into the air for a moment before pulling it back in. He took it all in. The buildings leaned like they were whispering to each other. The water reflected everything upside down. Then the boat arrived at a small square with steps leading down to the canal. The gondolier gestured for passengers to get off. The others stood, climbed out, thanked him, and walked away. He followed, still half lost in the magic of the ride. He stepped onto the pavement, stretched his arms, looked around, and froze. His suitcase, still on the gondola. He turned around just in time to see the boat drifting away from the steps, turning down another canal, the gondolier humming a tune, completely unaware. The suitcase sat there like a quiet extra passenger. His heart dropped. He looked around. No one nearby seemed to know what to do. He couldn't call the gondolier. There were no numbers, no names, no way to signal. And the canals were like a maze. Turn left, turn right, then suddenly you're somewhere else. He started walking quickly along the edge of the canal, trying to follow the path of the water, hoping he might see the same boat again. Every gondola looked similar. But he remembered the small red ribbon tied to the top of the oar. That was his clue. He passed 3 gondolas. Then 5. Then 10. No ribbon. The cobblestones under his feet were uneven. He nearly tripped trying to keep pace with the water. Tourists passed by, couples took selfies, someone laughed nearby, but he kept moving, scanning every boat. After what felt like forever, but was probably just several bridges and a few twists later, he saw it. The red ribbon. The suitcase. Still there, safe, untouched. The gondola was paused at a dock near a busy cafe. A new couple was getting in. The gondolier recognized him and raised an eyebrow. The traveler pointed at the suitcase. The gondolier laughed and handed it over. Relief washed over him. He clutched the suitcase like it was gold. Not because it had anything valuable, just clothes, a charger, and a notebook, but because it was a piece of his journey, and because he realized how easily things can float away if you don't pay attention. Later that evening, sitting on the steps near the Grand Canal, suitcase by his side, he thought about what had just happened. And it hit him. He had used everything he'd learned in English to solve the problem. Asking for directions. Understanding signs. Describing what he had lost. Thanking people. Staying calm. And the words? They had come naturally. He hadn't studied them. He had lived them. Did that story feel real to you? That means your brain just stored a bunch of useful English without effort. That's what makes this kind of learning powerful. Like the suitcase, language doesn't stay with you unless you carry it through real experiences. So hit that like button if you felt the tension, subscribe for daily stories like this, and let us know in the comments. Have you ever left something important behind in a strange place? Tell us your story. We read every one.